Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our speaker tonight. So for many of us, in fact, just so we've got a bit of an idea of the room, how many people here are entrepreneurs who might be looking for funding? Okay, quite a few. How many investors in the room? Don't be shy. They're shy, they're always a shy bunch. So for most of us, when we start our business, particularly for that first bit, we're lucky if we get our initial capital from the 3 Fs. Anybody know what they are?
Friends, family, and fools.
Friends, family and fools. But for those who are lucky to go and take it to that next stage and get those bigger amounts of money, really, really good things can happen. What's impressive about Russ's journey is that this only started in 2009. He's been through 3 rounds of funding since and raised over 50 million. But also looking at the quality and the notoriety of some of his investors, including Sir Richard Branson, there's a really good few nuggets and stories to share here. So please put your hands together and welcome Russell. Thanks very much.
Good evening. Thanks very much. My name's Russ. Thank you, Warren. I'm going to try and get you through a little story. I was a London cab driver. I don't mind admitting it. 30 years father, son of a cab driver. I'm even married to a cab driver. So you can safely say that the taxi business is in me blood. That was my registration plate, which I'm going to say that it's hidden somewhere. But the story, yeah, it's a long story, but I'm going to cut it down to about 15 minutes, if I can. Where did it begin? Covent Garden, 2009, 2 other taxi drivers, Gary Jackson and Terry Runham. We're sitting in this pret-a-manger saying to ourselves, how can we change an inefficient business? While lots of taxi drivers obviously talk and give opinions, there's not many that really go around and actually actively get off their backsides and do something. By the way, I mean, there's lots of taxi drivers that are entrepreneurs, you know, actors and musicians, etc. But me, Gary and Terry, we sat down in that pret-a-manger thinking to ourselves, how can we change it? And we come up with an idea called Taxi Light. Taxi Light was a web-based booking service. So you can actually go on to Taxi Light. If you wanted to go to Heathrow, you can put in how much you wanted to pay for them, 30 quid. Then the taxi driver would go on there. And then they would see it, and if they go in there, they'd feel the empty space. We thought we reinvented the wheel. We had 2 tech guys, just 2, and we thought that they would do the business for us. Unfortunately, you know, they never had the same ambition as what we saw. You know, the movement of the taxi industry. You know, it's a 350-year-old taxi industry that hasn't really changed. And I don't mind admitting I've been 50 years a part of that taxi industry, but it needed changing. And the guys that we was with at the time, they never had the same ambition. So we left them in 2010 of the summer, and we was looking for knowledge, investment, technical expertise, and then we stumbled across, if it goes on to the next one. Yep. Next slide.
There we go.
Yeah. So Gary's the little chubby one in the middle. You don't mind me calling that because he's not here. Terry is top right. But we met the middle guy, Jay Bregman, Casper on the left, and Ron Ziegler on the right. But before we met those guys, we were still trying to find the missing link. And I don't mind admitting, I was so desperate that if you don't answer that phone in a minute, I'll go and stamp on it. I was so desperate that, you know, I wrote off to Dragon's Den. We only wanted 60 grand because that's what we thought at that time to build an application. They never come back to us. The side step of that was that last year James Kahn contacted Halo because he wanted to open an account, and I actually spoke to his PA and I said, look, yeah, I think he's missed the boat, but where's he going? I said, where's he going? He said, he's going to Wimbledon to watch the Olympic tennis. I said, well, don't worry, I'll send him a cab. I said, one condition, that he actually has a picture by a Halo cab, which he did supply, which I've got in my pocket, if anyone wants to see it. James Kahn, buy a Halo cab. So we were still searching for funding, and then, because I'm still driving the cab at the time, I stumbled across, hands up guys, Peter Stringfellow. Everyone knows it, they're not admitting to it. But he works, you know, taxi drivers are the second oldest industry, and he works with the oldest. Anyway, this was probably the turning point for me, was people asked me when was the eureka moment. So I'm chatting away with Pete Stringfellow, taking him to his club, and I said to him, you know, I've got this idea. He said, yeah, well, what is it? I said, it's got this, you know, it's an application. He said, tell me about it. And I said, well, it's a taxi application. It's a taxi app. And he said, stop. And I said, well, I haven't told you about it yet. He said, it'll be a success because you know the market you're in. And when I dropped him off, I thought, you know, that's probably gives me the biggest oomph of what I needed at that particular time. We never got the funding. We met someone else. I never got the funding off him. He invited me into the club, which I said no, in case if it's being filmed. and it was daytime as well, and it's quite scary. But anyway, we were still looking for investment, and Gary actually picked up this guy that had a wine bar, and he wanted to offer us $100 grand to get this application. And you know, we was on the verge of accepting that. Then you know, we bumped into these three guys. And we met in a coffee shop. I think the great thing about any entrepreneurial idea always evolves around drink, whether it's alcohol, coffee, tea, and that's through the centuries. But we met these three guys. They sort of found out that Taxi Light was there. You know, we had 1,000 drivers, taxi drivers. And I always say this, it was a sort of like love at first sight, because, you know, when we were speaking to them, it was immediate, you know, we got this immediate sort of rapport of, they had something that we wanted, and we had something that they wanted. And so it was quite cagey. But we sat down and we worked through that. We wanted to work together. So, you know, Jay, for instance, the guy in the middle, he come from New York. He had his own entrepreneurial company, Courier, quite successful. You might see that sickly mauve-coloured sort of vans driving around. Lee owned that particular company along with Casper. One was a friend of Jay. I knew Gary from football in the East End. Terry, we don't know where we found him from. Scary looking. He's probably out on the houses tonight. But anyway, we come together to be the perfect partnership. And we worked through that winter of 2010. And by the sort of the May, we had the driver app developed. And what the other thing, does everybody know Halo? Has everybody got Halo? You know what it's about? So basically, you're only seeing the passenger app, but the driver app was built specifically, obviously, for the drivers, because the drivers are our main customers. If we haven't got drivers on board, then we ain't got passengers. So we went away and built an app for drivers, and with that, they can take a credit card, they can interact with each other, they can see, you know, where their friends are. You can let other drivers know that there's work at Liverpool Street Station, or no work at Liverpool Street Station when streets are shut. So it was a great tool for a driver, and I think that was a big selling point. As well, we had to take drivers through technology pretty quickly, because, you know, cab drivers are quite knowledgeable, but they've still got the old Nokia, and we had to get them off the Nokia and get them onto an iOS or an Android. And you know, I remember having a conversation with cab drivers saying, you know, I don't do technology. I'm saying, you've got to get this, even if you get it for, you know, Skype or YouTube. I don't know what YouTube is, and I'm saying, for Christ's sake, come down to the office and we'll help you. So we was more like advice, and in the end we used to liberate cab drivers, because we used to give them their own email addresses. Because it's like, what's your name? John Smith. Well, what's your email address? It's Mary Smith. I said, well, it's not anymore. So, you know, we've got some, you know, investors son up there. You know, you're probably familiar with, I don't know if you are familiar with them, but you should be. You know, the guys behind Facebook, Skype. And look at Atomico, for instance. Atomico, Nicholas Zenstrom, anyone know Nicholas? No? He bought it and sold it and sold it and bought it, and he'd done everything. And when that guy's in the room, he ran funding, and he sort of saying to me, I absolutely fantastically love your idea of this taxi app. Then again, it was like, Peter Stringfellow was okay, but this guy means business. And I think that was another turning point for us. Early doors, I mean, we ain't got a USB up there, Union Square Ventures, have we? No, they're the guys behind Twitter, you know them as well, but they could have come in the A round as well, which they never. Perhaps I should have sold it to them. But to get to there, it's, you know, family and friends, work for nothing. You know, my wife thinks I'm crazy. I'm going out at night time, I'm coming home, getting back in the cab, having emails, you know, having your friends around the weekend, convincing them, you know. And in the end, we sort of, Jay, Casper, Ron, Terry, and Gary, and myself, we bonded so well, and we knew we had the confidence to take it further. And I think that's one of the main reasons, especially people like Wellington Partners, Chris Dark, you know, you know, he can listen to Jay all day long, but he turns around and says to me, "How's it doing?" I'm saying, "It's doing well." You know, we're clearing the market up. I think that's another thing, you know, knowledge of the market and having the confidence to talk to taxi drivers head on. Next slide, please. That's where we are now, Somerset House, but we wasn't there at the beginning, so now we're talking November 10, where are we? We're talking May 11. We was on a boat called the HMS President, still there, lovely place to go and have a beer in the summertime. If you've got an hangover, it's not a great place to work, because you know, you are moving around a bit. But we just moved there in September, another nautical theme, but we've got the best part of 150, 200 developers. I'm pleased to say I've got one of the main men here today, Andy Jones, like product head of the driver app, plus other stuff. And so that's where we're amassing ourselves these days. But we started on the boat, just 6 of us. It was quite cosy, but then all of a sudden we started branching out with different developers. And we started to recruit. I always say a great team, and I'm a big football fan. And you know, when I talk to a driver, they say, "How good's ALO?" If they ask me how good ALO is, I say, "What teams you follow?" They say, "Millwall, West Ham." I say, "You know, this is Barcelona or Madrid. This is a top team." And I've got Lionel Messi sitting at the front here today. Next slide. Identifying the market was, as I said, you know, the experience in the market. Passed me knowledge in 1984, 6th of June, D-Day. It must have meant something. To me, it was like driving a cab. We actually was there today talking to drivers. The black cab industry is a very lucrative market, and every single day what Gary, Terry and myself noticed was that we was leaving money on the table, because I'd come to work empty, I'd go home empty. And so what we're doing is we're doing further improvements where we fill that emptiness. I mean, the ideal is if you take a job to Clapham for a cab driver, a passenger in Clapham will tap the app and get a job back in the town. That's worked successfully as well. So it's knowledge of the market, and I think that's what's put us above our competitors. Now we're getting up to launch day, which we're celebrating our 2nd birthday tomorrow, I think. Is it Friday tomorrow? Friday tomorrow, yeah. So the 1st of November is Halo's 2nd birthday, but to get to our birthday, it was a nervous time. We launched with 1,000 drivers, and now we've got almost 14,000 drivers. But that's what the taxi market was all about, was addressing those issues. Next slide. Some reviews, you probably can't see them at the back, but you may know that we've got probably 11,000, you know, 5-star reviews. There are a couple of 1-stars, but when you go into them a little bit, there might be our opposition. We take you know, every single piece of feedback. Probably the most negative feedback we do get is probably passengers using taxis too much, which is a brilliant sort of piece of feedback. Next slide, please. So we launched in November of 2011. It didn't go out with a big splash. All of a sudden the social media got hold of it and started spreading the news. I used to get cab drivers ringing me every day. "Where's all this work you promised us?" I said, "It's coming. You know, please believe me, it's coming." And people did. You know, people started using it, like, you know, Jamie Oliver, Jonathan Ross. I'm waiting to get on your show, by the way, and stuff like that. And all of a sudden it exploded. You know, once them guys start tweeting about it on Facebook and stuff, then we started getting more and more confidence. And then obviously back to our investors, we had to show them a roadmap, and that's important as well. I mean, you can't just go and say, you know, give us $3 million or whatever. You've got to say, well, we're going to do this and we're going to do that and we're going to deliver. And what we did do, me all left, we went to Dublin, and that's Big Bill, by the way, and Dermot and Dave are sitting in the cab as well. And that was the other thing we did. We made sure that every city we went to, we had the knowledge of the taxi industry, because that would make it a success too. So those 3 guys come on board and they launched, well, I wasn't there for that particular launch, but they launched in July of 2012. Quickly followed by our first trip across the pond. That involved Toronto on the 26th of September. Great day that was, because I went into the toilet. I Dysoned my hands, and I haloed a cab. and I thought, that's where I want to be. You know, people want to say, you're going to get a halo, and I think for us to turn it into a verb, I think it'd be another achievement. But from there, we launched in Boston and then Chicago, and then we had a little stop, and then in this year, in 2013, it's Friday today, yeah? Well, Thursday, I should say. 2013, then we went to New York, and I was out in New York. They had a big thing out there. Not only Halo was launching in New York, Innovation in the UK. We actually met Prince Harry. I explained Prince Harry. I've got the pictures as well of how Halo works. I said, you probably won't need it. I said, you never know, around South Kent at 2 o'clock in the morning, you may need a Halo cab. And I met David Cameron as well. He was also impressed. So we launched that. I mean, this has been a whirlwind time for Halo. It was like buses. All of a sudden, we didn't have a pier, and then or taxis, for instance. Then all of a sudden, we had DC, Barcelona, Madrid, Cork, Limerick, Galway, all coming along at the same time. And just recently, I've been out to Osaka to launch Osaka as well. It's interesting to know I'm just about getting across to learn how to speak English, but every city I go to, I speak the language. So I'm quite funny. If you Google it, you might find me speaking Japanese, Spanish, and Irish. So I'm looking forward in a couple of weeks' time because we're launching our first French city, which is Montreal. So bonjour, ouvrez la fenêtre. So everywhere we went, you know, it's important we have, you know, cab drivers in those cities. The middle one is Toronto. You've got New York, obviously. That's Toronto as well, and Madrid. But anyway, next slide, please. Japan is a little video which we're not going to play. It doesn't play the video. Next slide. Before I come to this part, I mean, I'm here. You never get a fiver off a cab driver anyway. But tonight's your lucky chance because if you download the Halo app and put in your credit card and put in my code NYC UK, you get a fiver off your first ride. Well, if you download it now, you're going to get off the next ride. That's been my journey. The journey hasn't finished. I think it's probably one, you know, I want to focus back to where we are with startups in the UK. I'm a massive fan of entrepreneurs, I think, in this city itself and up and down the UK, and I'm sure we've got some more entrepreneurs sitting out there in the audience tonight. I hope somewhere along the line that I've pricked a little bit more of an idea of what the journey's like. Never say never, always believe, have confidence, get the backing of your family, tell your kids you love them, take your granny out for a walk, but make sure you stay focused on the journey you're going to take. I've been Russ. Thanks very much.
So I think you'll all agree, foreign languages spoken in East End London accent is just beautiful, isn't it? Russ, congratulations. From idea in 2009 to starting in 2011, and I believe your latest valuation was 140 million?
That was a few months ago now, yeah.
You must be pinching yourself every day.
Well, I don't mind admitting I was at number 10 last week for being recognised for the Future 50, you know, the City Breakfast. And it's like, well, the boy from the Eastern End's done too bad, but I'm hoping to go back to pick up a piece of silverware, which we mentioned earlier, in a couple of years' time, after the Jonathan Ross show.
Well, we've had a few questions from the audience, and the first one I'd like to ask you, I've highlighted on the screen. What would you say was the hardest part of your crusade to launch Halo for your friends and your family?
Our friends thought Gary, Terry and myself was, they thought we was quite mad because we obviously had these meetings all the time and we sacrificed, I mentioned the family, and I remember the time of November 2010, if anyone Googles it, it was the worst weather ever, and me living out in Orpington. I used to get up 6 o'clock in the morning, put me high leg Dr. Martin aviator boots on, and me park and walk through the snow. My wife said, "Where are you going?" I'm saying, "Well, I'm going to go and meet these tech guys in Carnaby Street, and we're going to try and, you know, make life a little bit better for cab drivers and us," I had to say, and you too, love. And it was you had to get the backing of your friends and your family, and I think that wasn't that hard. I've always tried different entrepreneurial things. I've got a podcast that I think will probably be, out there one day. What's it called? The Cabcast. And I think I couldn't be, I'm always trying different entrepreneurial ideas. Halo has overtaken my life. I don't mind admitting that. My 2 daughters have worked for me. My wife works for me. Everybody I know, most of them are cab drivers. They're not cab drivers. They work for me too. And I keep it very, very tight. My team's very tight. They've been instrumental, my friends and family, of me being here today. And that's the time when I have to prick myself. My wife said, "Are you coming home tonight?" And I've got to tell her I'm not, because I might be going to see someone at the Albert Hall later. No pressure there. Got a plant.
It's very good. Another question that's come in, and I think it's actually several parts, but actually this is a common question I hear, must admit, nowadays, which is around when you've got a good idea, building the tech behind it. Who do you trust? So from your point of view, as you're not a developer, how did you ensure that the quality was maintained and they hit spec, the right level of commitment? Because with all business owners, it's our passion that carries through. How did you go about that?
Well, I mean, I go back to Jay Bregman. He takes a lot of plaudits for building up the tech team that we've got. But then, we delegated that to different people. I mean, we've got a GM in London, but we've outsourced, as I said, before, and we've got Andy here with us tonight, top product guy. Why they stay with us, why they join us, they obviously saw what Halo was, and when they actually meet the guys and meet the team, we've got a strong backbone of developers and product people that have been with us from the very, very beginning. They help beat, and that's the backbone. Jose, Martin Sweeney, Dave, James, all those guys have been with us from the beginning. And I think they're living on the dream as well. And obviously, as it's developed, as it's evolved, Halo in 14 cities. There's a Halo job globally every 4 seconds. There's another one. In London, there's one every 7 seconds. I think the Halo drivers have been, took enough passengers to go 95,000 times around the M25. We've done almost 4 million jobs, and as I said, it's all down to the team to get us there. But the team have to believe, and I suppose they look to the founders sometimes, and if we was at disarray, they wouldn't be around with us. So it's a testament to them.
So another question has come through. How many times have you pitched to investors until you got lucky? And did it actually get easier on second and third rounds?
As I said, I don't mind mention Union Square Ventures, like John Butterick, he could have been in early. He never, but he's in now. But no, we was constantly pitching to different people. It was always interesting, especially when you talk about Daniel Waterhouse, and people know him. Daniel Waterhouse, one of our investors, he's just moved companies. But meeting people like him, Chris Dark, Philip from Atomico, I think it's good because when we actually go to meet those guys, there was a certain belief, and obviously our energy to tell them, especially as it moves forward. 40,000 cab drivers worldwide, 5 million taxi users, 400,000 in London. Almost every other cab, if he's not on Halo, he's either ducking the tax man or he's been living on a different planet for the last few years, couple of years. So I think it's a belief that to get the belief from the investors. The people that missed out at the beginning, they missed out, but they've come on board now.
One question that's come through, which is how you make money, so people are interested in your commercial model.
Cool. London is, we take 10% of the fare off the taxi driver. They've accepted that. If you don't, there's lots of taxi drivers in London that pay subscriptions to radio circuits. And basically, if you work the radio circuit, you have to pay a subscription. Halo's work model in London is that if you do a Halo fare, Halo takes 10%. That's quite simple. We do look at every city individually. Perhaps if you look at in Europe, we're more likely to charge the driver. In America, we normally charge the passenger, give a hailing or Halo handling fee. So we look at the market in each. So wherever we go, we just tailor cut our work model.
So we're going to be inviting you back for the panel anyway, but before I let you go, we have been asked on the screen which football team you support. I'm going to hope you're going to say Claret and Blue, but don't disappoint me, go on.
It's West Ham.
Good ball. Okay, excellent stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, Russ Hall.